Absolutely, absolutely. Now, looking at that document, one of the things that stuck out to me was a movement more towards making more plastic figures. Like that's going to be a part of Private Press moving forward. And so one of the things that was funny when I got in very early as the game came out, and it was Full Metal Fantasy. Now, the funny thing about that is, could you envision? I like the plastic kits for putting jacks together, especially. It makes it much easier. So my question is this: could you imagine a privateer press without metal, without metal miniatures?
I don't think that we'll ever see a privateer press without any metal. It's possible, and this isn't a declaration of any kind. The Full Metal Fantasy, that's actually the tagline for the RPG, right? And that's not meant to imply the manufacturing material. It's meant to that's sort of our version of steampunk, right? Because we've got a lot of crossover with the steampunk genre because it's a fantastic environment and it's steam powered technology, but steampunk never exactly fit the vision. And for us, it's all about the metal robots, heavy armor, and big guns, and that's the Full Metal Fantasy philosophy, right? But as far as the manufacturing goes, we started integrating plastic into our line a few years ago with the high rising cost of metal, and the metal has continued to stay high. It's fluctuated a little bit in a very narrow band, but to put it in terms of that everybody understands, it's about 5 times higher per pound than when we first started manufacturing miniatures 8 years ago. So that's a really huge jump in a very short period of time. And what plastic allows us to do is control the pricing a little bit more. And I think that a great example of what we've been able to achieve with plastic is the new Man-O-War plastic kits, where Will could probably give you the numbers. They're not at the top of my head, but I think that a unit of Man-O-War was...
A full unit of Man-O-War in metal is about $89.
And a full unit of Man-O-War in plastic is
$45.
So you can see what we can do with the plastic now, right? And while at the end of the day, whether or not we sell it in metal or plastic, we have a formula, an equation that says this is the margin that we have to achieve on any product, and we're going to get that margin no matter what. But to the consumer, it's a lot more accessible if we can control those prices and keep them from creeping up, and that's what the plastic allows us to do. It also allows us at this point to control inventory flow a little bit better and make sure that the products are available. So the plastic is easier for us to manufacture in bulk, where metal, the thing about all these metal figures is every single one of those is made by hand, right? Every single piece is cast by one of our casters who is really an artisan. They perfected this stuff, their craft over the years, and that's why we're able to produce these high quality pieces. But every one of them is cast by hand and broken out of a mold and inspected, and it's a much more intensive process than the way plastic is manufactured, which is a more mass production process. And so referencing the document you were talking about earlier, that's part of where the log jam occurs right now in our fulfillment, is that the metal takes a lot longer to make. And so as we go forward, what we're doing is strategically moving certain SKUs or products, different models, into the plastic material where it makes sense. I think things like character models, at least for the foreseeable future, they're going to remain in metal, because you're only going to need one warcaster of a certain character. But when it comes to things like units, where there may be duplicates within the unit and whatnot, those make sense for us to produce in plastic and deliver to the consumer at a more conservative price.
You practically already answered my next question, but I was going to say one of the things it said was talking about moving core units to plastic, and I know right away it jumps into my mind. Battle boxes are something that I would.
Attention, Gen Con attendees! Stop by Hall K to sign
Give us 1 second.
Yu-Gi-Oh! Championship Series.
Good idea.
Starts tomorrow at 10 a.m.
So one of the things when I think about core, I think about battle boxes. But what else do you guys think are the core units?
I think that's something.
Well, the core unit means a different thing to everyone, right? And one of the big strengths about the games, especially with War Machine and Hordes, is that you've got all these different elements, and there's no one right way to construct an army. There are theories about, this thing should always be included or this thing, but if you go to a different locale, right, those must includes are always different. So when you're constructing a core list, there are a couple of things that you really want to keep in mind when you're looking at core units. One is the utility, right? There are certain things that almost every starting player, every existing player has in their collection and comes out more often than not, right? Mm-hmm. In the case of Signar, Stormblades are a great example. They hit hard in melee, they have a decent range attack, they have a great UA, they have some good supports, and most Signar players that I know, in fact, I would say nearly all, have a unit or two. And they don't have any qualms about filling those things in most army composition lists. The other part to a core list, especially from our standpoint and the things that we kind of take into account, is does it identify with the faction? Does it provide, because as the line grows, new things get introduced. But there are certain key elements to each faction that are iconic of that faction. With Signar's Storm technology and I think Arcane Tempest Gun Mages are another good example where you have these spell-slinging pistoliers, right? In what other setting do you really have that? And those are the things that we look at. So it becomes a mix, right? Because you're never going to be able to please everybody. And if you could, then I probably wouldn't be doing this. I'd be living in a mansion somewhere, just feasting on the most exotic foods that I could, right? Because that's really the secret. If you make everybody happy, you never need to work again in your life. So it becomes a balance, and obviously there's room for interpretation and there's room for making things better. And as new things come out, those lists will shift. But it becomes what is going to be the most useful to a new player and an existing player. What are kind of the staples that you typically see over a large spectrum of local metas, and then what embodies that faction? How do you really present that? Because at the end of the day, I think most gamers and players of board miniature games are going to look at that and they're going to be, you are drawn into things because of the identity that you get with them. So Signar speaks to me because I think the voltaic Tesla type stuff is really awesome, and I think the faction morals and values within the fluff and setting are important. And really emphasizing those in that core list is very important, because that's what's going to pull you and that's what's going to draw you in and that's what's going to keep you there.
Can I augment that?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think one of the other things about these core lists is that we're gonna maintain them dynamically. So as we go forward, if we find that what we have selected as the core is not resonating necessarily with people, we have the ability and the flexibility to change that going forward. What those core lists are meant to do really is in the meantime, as we're building out our production to greater capacity, we can ensure better that there's always product on the shelf for new players as well as existing players, and that we can support our retailers and make sure that they have what's available or what's necessary as people come into the game, and that's really what the core list is all about. I think that in the future, where we get caught up in our fulfillment and we have a better pipeline there, the core list is not something that will be a necessary component of our catalog right now. It's a temporary fix, or not even a fix. It's a way for us to sort of navigate this explosive growth that we're experiencing right now, and in an attempt to maintain everybody's interests that are.
Yeah, it's a problem, but it's a good problem to have.
Sure, yeah, of course.
Yeah, definitely. So now you guys are here at Gen Con. It's a great con because it's unplugged gaming going on all over the place. What's your philosophy about reaching out to people at cons?
Well, I think the philosophy is the same as it is when we're not at cons, right? We are accessible, we're there, we want to talk to people, we have the same passion they do, for the games, and getting to connect with people about that is, to me, it's truly what makes the job exciting and worth it, right? Is that I get to come to Gen Con, and just like anyone else, I get to come to Gen Con, I get to meet the people who play our games and who are just as excited about it every day that I am, right? Mm-hmm. And there's something to be said about that kind of feeling and that kind of camaraderie, and at the end of the day, we all love War Machine and Hordes. We all love Monster Apocalypse. We all want to sit down and play Infernal Contraption or Scrappers or Grind. All those things, we take a lot of work and a lot of hardship to put out into the world, but at the same time, we love them just as much, and if not more. And so getting a chance to share that and know that, people feel the same and they have the same excitement. That's really what it's all about. So at the end of the day, right, I think it's just being genuine. I come here and like I don't need to like fake the smile or fake the excitement, right? Or jazz myself up in the morning in the mirror and say, you got 8 hours of Gen Con to go, right? A little more jazz. I love the energy here. I love the excitement, and that really goes for everybody here, right? That's the thing when you go to Gen Con. Everyone at the office who doesn't get to come because we only have so many slots for the booth. It's always a sad parting because they're not here and we are, and so the amount of work really doesn't outbalance the excitement and the energy you really get from being here and doing that. So.